Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Cop Shop. This movie is directed by Joe Carnahan, who previously directed Smokin Aces and The Grey. This movie stars Frank Grillo, Gerard Butler, and Alexis Louder. Now, the plot of this movie is about three individuals, the ones I just mentioned. First one, Frank Grillo, plays a man named Teddy, who is speeding through the Nevada desert trying to escape from something. So he gets himself thrown in jail, thinking that will protect him from whatever's coming after him. Well, it turns out the other person that's thrown to the same jail cell with him is, in fact, the person coming after him. So I'm not going to say any more, but let's just say things unfold in some pretty violent, explosive, and over-the-top fashion. Now, I can describe this film in a variety of ways, so I'll start with the most obvious. Assault on Precinct 13. This movie tries so hard to be that movie, where you have two people in a jail cell trying to get at each other, but then you have this honest cop, this good cop standing in their way. So I like that aspect of it. The movie also has a Western feel, where all of the odds are stacked against this one cop, and so they're the only one standing in the way of, all this evil, all this corruption, all this stuff, and, they're sticking to their guns. They have a heart of gold, so they're the ones that have to stand up and do what's right for justice and, just good reason. The movie also has a 1970s feel to the dialogue, to the music, to the way it's shot. But also, this movie does something that I'm glad it did, and that's subvert expectations. Because if you judge this movie based on the first 10, 15 minutes of it, you're not going to like this film. It's not until the third act where things get changed up. Also, I was a little worried because in the majority of this movie, you have actors like Frank Grillo and Gerard Butler, who are usually guys that are action stars, stuck in a jail cell, talking a lot. So that's not something you expect. And then eventually the action comes. You're like, oh, okay, But does subverting expectations, make the whole equal to some of its parts? I don't think so. Because you have a lot of characters in this movie. Some stand out and are enjoyable to watch, but others you're like, why did they cast that actor or that actress in this type of role? For example, Chad Coleman is in this movie. He plays like the sergeant or the captain. He's really good in The Wire. Really good. He's good in The Walking Dead. But here, you have these characters that are just written so poorly. Chad Coleman spouting off F-bombs left and right. The writing and the dialogue in this movie is not very good. And then you have another guy from The Walking Dead. So you have characters that have gimmicks, but when you don't have strong characters and when you don't have characters that are very, let me just say, well written, why keep them in a film for so long? You think you'd have either no other actors in this movie to kind of get the point across, but when you have all these characters and you do nothing with them, when they're dismissed or when they leave the movie or when they're killed off, you don't care because you're like, oh, okay, that was just, nobody number two. And so that's a weak point. They should have just had a limited amount of actors, because Alexis Louder, I had not seen her in anything before this. She definitely stood out. She was really good. I would have to say, though, Toby Huss is in this movie. He's a character actor. He plays a character named Anthony Lamb. He's, to me, the best part of this movie. He's a hitman. He's a psychopath. But he reminded me a lot of Walton Goggins' character in The Hateful Eight as Sheriff Maddox, where, he's crazy, but he's super polite and over the top, and everything he says, you just can't look away. That's how he's portrayed. So that character kept me interested in the movie, because I was like, I don't like that character, but I'm excited to see what he does next. Overall, I feel like Joe Carnahan does, like a lot of directors, they'll do some movies for the audience because they know fans like a certain style, a certain gimmick, certain actor, what have you. But then they do movies for themselves. And I feel like Boss Level, his most recent film, that he did for the audience and the fans. And I feel like Cop Shop is a movie he did for himself. Now, this movie tried so hard to be different. And I feel like if you try to be different hard enough that you're gonna just be lost in the shuffle and you're not going to be that interesting. That's how I found this movie. Joe Carnahan has done good movies. Narc was good. The Gray was good. But then when you have stuff like Smokin' Aces and Boss Level, things that are over the top and a little silly, you kind of lose the tone of the movie and you kind of lose your identity. And that just reminded me of there's a scene in the third act, like the last 5 minutes are just like, what? Because there's an ending to the movie that should have stopped, but then the movie keeps going and you're like, okay. So I like the 1970s feel. I liked the assault on Precinct 13 aspect of it. I liked the acting from some of the characters, and I liked the Western vibe that it gave off. But everything else was just a jumbled mess, and it was sloppy. The writing was lazy at some parts, and I don't want expectations to be subverted, and I don't want that to be an excuse to make a good movie. So because of that, I'm going to give Cop Shop a C. It has talent within the movie, but the execution is not really great. So until next time, guys, see ya.